It's really a next step for Ukrainian music to have an American ensemble performing this repertoire, learning it, working with the composer, inviting the composer, and then putting it into their hands and really showing that this is not just music for Ukrainians, this is great music that should be played by musicians in the greatest music city in the world, in one of the most famous music spaces in the world. So this is a real thrill. Victoria is one of Ukraine's most important living composers. Her music has already been performed 3 times. This will be the 3rd time this year in Carnegie Hall. She has been commissioned by some of the most important, biggest ensembles, the London Symphony Orchestra, the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. Her music has been played throughout Europe and increasingly in the United States. But this is also still a very important moment, I think, and so it's wonderful that we have the opportunity to hear this music here in this intimate setting ahead of the concert in Carnegie Hall, and also to hear from the composer directly. So that's all I'm going to say, and enjoy the music, and yeah, we'll chat a little bit later.
Thank you, everyone. It's extremely exciting and moving for a musician to be able to play in the presence of the composer. And I want to tell you about the piece that I'm going to play. It's called Numbers. It's the piano suite. I guess you will call it that. It has 5 movements. So the piece is about 14 minutes long. And the title itself can mean many things, and I was trying to decipher it while practicing what other would mean by that. And I do think it's important to leave room for imagination for the listener. You don't know exactly what to imagine or what things have to kind of go a certain way. But certain things I think are certainly helpful. So in the 5 movements, some have direct titles. The first one is called Numbers, and they're actual moments where Victoria puts specific words. There's the word name, then kingdom. There's the word will, then bread, then death, then temptations, and it's the end, it says amen. So a lot of room for interpretation. Second movement is called Warm Wind, and I think it's quite evoking that emotion. Third one is just third movement, and we spoke a little bit, and it evokes a prayer. And the fourth movement is called the Abyss. It's quite terrifying, I think, that movement. And the last one is just the fifth movement. So numbers, and I hope we all imagine something that's meaningful to ourselves.
Up next, as they say. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming and sharing our music that we love with us. I honestly speaking, I prepared 2 pieces to perform, but we're going to see how we're doing with this time. I would love to share it with you, of course, both of them, but I understand it's a weekday and we all have to be at work tomorrow. But we will see how it goes. I met Victoria through her music in 2019 when I premiered the piece that I'm going to perform, Ischia, the Island. And since then, I have performed Victoria's music quite often. And what I noticed that with the first note, if you are going to ask me what my name is, I cannot tell because Victoria's world is so diverse and enchanting that it absorbs you, and I hope you too as well. We are going to travel now to Italy, to the island of Ischia. Anybody has been there? Anybody has? Yes? How was that?
Very beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. What was the most memorable thing that you remember from there? Like the first thing?
The gardens.
The garden?
Yeah, there was this garden like on the top of the hill.
The top of the hill. Yeah. So it's really beautiful place. Now I saw it only from the zip line in Capri. That my daughter and I, my daughter's in the audience, so we traveled to Italy in May, and I saw Ischia. It's really beautiful, and it was actually covered with a little shy cloud. So it's I don't know. To me, it smiled a little bit, and I told I said this is Ischia. This is the piece, the island I'm playing about. Ischia has had a very versatile history of battles, love stories, and I think the piece is built. You probably, most of you know how life goes. It builds up, and then it drops for some kind of reason, whether it's dropped to get more energy and push forward, or it's dropped just because it's a drop. So this piece is not very long. I think once it starts, and then you are not going to even notice how it's going to end. But what's very interesting that this build up at the end, I hear when I play this piece, I hear a human voice at the end, not only at the end. It just appears and then it dissolves in the big clouds. So I really love this piece, and I hope you will enjoy it. Thank you. The other piece that I prepared, it has a very interesting story. So first of all, it's called Sonata Quasi Una Fantasia, which you also know. Ready? Sonata Quasi Una Fantasia, right? Now, this piece is dedicated to Maria Yudina. She was a very interesting character. Now, I would like you to imagine, so we are now going to transfer to the Stalin's era in the 40s and the 30s, 40s, 50s of the 20th century. And so basically, ideology is so strong that everybody has to be with it or not. Or not had choices, whether you leave or you are not alive. So this character, Maria Yudina, wonderful pianist, amazing Bach performer. She was very, very profoundly religious. Now, can you imagine during Stalin's era, she was profoundly religious, right? So she would, all her honorariums, she would gather and she would give to the church. How? Nobody knows how she was walking so alive and doing that at the same time. Now, there was one interesting moment when Joseph Stalin was listening to the radio, and he heard a performance by Maria Yudina. Oh no, he was hearing the performance of the Mozart concerto. I don't remember which one. And then he really liked it. Yes, he was also into classical music, believe it or not. And he really liked that performance, and he said, "Oh, that was really nice. So, do we have?" I think it was a live recording. It was a live performance, and he said, "So I would like to hear it again." And someone told him, "But we don't have it. It was a live transmission from the concert." And he said, "What do you mean we don't have it?" So when Stalin said, "What do you mean we don't have it?" The next step would be, we have it. So they gathered the whole orchestra. They called, and he asked, "Who is the performer?" "Maria Yudina." "Okay, so let's record it." At night, the orchestra was gathered in the radio hall, and Maria Yudina, and they recorded this piece for Stalin. So I think she was forgiven so many things in her personal, her professional life. And I'm still, maybe after our performance, we are going to talk with Victoria what exactly connects Victoria with Maria Yudina and why this piece exactly was dedicated to Maria Yudina. I really would like to know. But this is Sonata Quasi Una Fantasia. Once upon a time, there was a equivalent to the Phoenixburg Simon. And far away from the place where Seymour lives, there was a flock of birds. And they lived, I would say, happily. But at some point, they thought, who we are? What is our purpose? And they couldn't figure it out among themselves. So they decided to ask Seymour, their king. And where do they find the king? So they just started flapping their wings and they started flying toward the palace. They flew over the forests and seas and valleys, and they couldn't find the king. They were flying for many years, for 7 years. And finally, on the mountain, they saw the palace. And they were so happy because finally they could ask the king what their happiness was and where was it. And they entered the palace and there was no one. And they were searching for the king. They couldn't find anything. And then they were very disappointed because they flew for such a long time and they still had the question not answered. And all of a sudden, they looked around and they saw the mirrors around them. And they understood that happiness is looking at them. From the mirror, happiness is within themselves. But in order to understand it, they had to make a long, long, long way. So I would like to invite Anya Shelest, whom we are going to perform with this piece, Simor for two pianos.
Oh, thanks. So, I will start with a couple of questions directly for Victoria, and my colleague Valeria, who's a wonderful cellist, is going to translate just that we have both Ukrainian and English represented. And then I would love to just open it for Q&A with you all, since we have this wonderful, intimate opportunity to speak with the composer. Can you tell us a little bit about the piece that is going to be played at Carnegie Hall tomorrow evening?
Чи могли би щось розказати про твір, який завтра буде виконаний в Carnegie Hall?
Зараз розкажу. Але вибачте, я трохи після концерту я так дуже збуджена. І ну, це особливе відчуття композитора після того, як відзвучала музика. Ну, трошки коливає мене.
Victoria is saying that she's quite overwhelmed after the poets or fellow pieces in the ensemble.
Добре. Симфонія, що буде звучати завтра, вона називається «Ізабел». Цей твір написаний буквально тільки що. Ну, тобто він в іншій редакції вже був в тому році, але зараз я робила спеціальну особливу версію для Carnegie Hall, бо це інший зал, інша ситуація, і я змінилася за рік після написання.
So the symphony that we performed at Carnegie Hall tomorrow was performed last year, and it has changed slightly since then to fit the different space. And Victoria said that she herself has changed since last year and wanted to experiment with the piece.
Оскільки цей твір називається «Ізабел», це зрозуміло, що головна генеральна ідея – це буде звучання цього дзвону. І я для себе так сформулювала, що це серцебиття.
So the symphony is called The Bell, and it focuses on the swaying of the bell, and to her it's come to mean, among other things, the pulse of life, the heartbeat of life.
Я мала такий досвід колись у Києві, в Лаврі, Київська Печерська лавра. Я була під величезним дзвоном, по якому дзвонар пив. Це було на протязі 15-20 хвилин. Тобто я була під дією надзвичайно сильних вібрацій цього дзвону.
So Victoria had a very unique experience at the Kyiv-Pечерsk Lavra, where she stood under the beating of the bell for about 15 to 20 minutes, and she was filled with its magnanimous energy.
Це було щось надзвичайне. Але найголовніше сталося, коли цей дзвін відзвучав. І я у тиші почула спів чи жіночого, чи дитячого голосу. Тобто це результат. Ангельський хор заспівав мені, і я давно вже хотіла написати музику, яка зв'язана з цим відчуттям.
So what was especially unique about the experience was what happened after the bell had finished ringing, and in the aftermath and in the silence, she heard a choir of either women's or children's voices, and
She just wanted to write something with this. She was inspired by this and wanted to write a piece that was connected to this experience with sound for a long time.
І зараз це була така справжня нагода, бо дзвін – це надзвичайно місткий символ. Тобто це дзвін, який провіщує війну. Дзвін, який дзвонить по загиблих. Це дзвін і зрештою це дзвін, який там сповіщає перемогу. Тобто це такий величезний конгломерат сенсів. Я хотіла це виразити.
so there's a great conglomerate of events that happens that is announced by bells. For example, the beginning of the war, somebody's passing away, as well as the victory of the war. And this is something that she wanted to accomplish and share.
And the piece itself is the orchestra, but also has a solo cellist. Can you talk a little bit about that, who that person is and how they came to be involved and maybe why the cello?
Це я розумію.
Розумію.
Так, це особливий такий твір, який поєднує в собі два жанри. Я називаю це симфонія, бо по концепції це симфонічний твір, але він поєднує з собою ще і віолончельний концерт. І тут такий є нюанс дуже важливий для мене, бо виконавиця, яка і була замовником, перший замовник, там багато було кого. Ідея йшла від неї, її звуть інбаль. Тобто інбаль у перекладі це язичок дзвону. Знаєте, так? Дзвін і там такий язичок.
The clapper of the bell, involved.
Інбаль.
It's the clapper of the bell.
І ось тому ще дуже важливий нюанс. Ця чудова віолончелістка, вона з Ізраїлю, і для неї теж дуже зрозуміло, що робиться з людиною під час війни. Тобто вона має такий ж самий досвід, що і.
I'll back up a little bit to those that have been listening for some time. So what makes this work unique is that it combines two genres. It combines the genre of the symphony and of the cello concerto. What makes this commission special and the way it relates to the sound of the bell, which is so unique to Victoria's music, is that the woman who commissioned it is a wonderful Israeli cellist, and her name is Inbal. Inbal is the word in Hebrew for the clapper of the bell. And Yes. So what she was saying is that Iqbal also, as an Israeli cellist, knows firsthand what it's like to experience war on your own.
Maybe we can just, so we've talked a little bit about what's happening tomorrow and why Victoria is here now. Could you maybe talk a little bit just about your career, maybe in general, and also specifically since the full-scale invasion, you were in Switzerland for some time, and how, if at all, how you have seen the reception of your music, Ukrainian music, change since the beginning of the full-scale invasion?
Що ви могли розказати про свою кар'єру? І як тобі вже?
Щодо кар'єри. Щодо кар'єри. Ну, насправді я починала як так, суто авангардистка, і мені це було надзвичайно цікаво, бо ну, це зона експерименту, і мені дуже в консерваторії, ну і до консерваторії я займалася різними експериментами і звучання, і структур. Це було дуже важливо для мене. Але ну, як кожна людина і композитор, я розвивалася і мала дуже різний досвід. В тому числі, це, ну, може, це найголовніший досвід. Я стала християнкою. І ну, це мене змінило, бо я не просто долучилася, але я дуже багато практикувала. І молитви війшли у мою творчість як, може, головний фактор. І це дуже змінило і стилістику, і жанри прийшли інші, прийшли хорові твори. Ну і ви чуєте в моїй музиці дуже багато речей, які пов'язані речитації, які є читанням молитв.
Okay, so Victoria started out her career as an avant-garde experimental composer. This was something that excited her. The biggest shift in her writing style, among many experiences, was her, I guess, coming into Christianity, and in that world, she has incorporated a new sound world, a sense of stillness, and a recitation of prayers.
And some of the genres change. She has written a lot of choral works, and that was partly as a result of this shift. And often her works involve allusions to prayer and recitation.
І це чутно, я доповню, це чутно і в фортепіанній музиці, бо там є дуже багато хорових голосів, проспівування. Тобто ідея співу війшла до всіх інших моїх жанрів.
So not only has this meant for Victoria that she was writing more choral music, but it also meant that more choral and vocal elements were entering her music written for other instruments.
And the piano, of course, is one instrument that's very much capable of producing multiple voices simultaneously, so it can have that sort of choral quality. And maybe your experiences since the full-scale invasion started, and yeah.
Так, який у вас був досвід після початку війни?
Це теж різний досвід. Ну, по-перше, я вже розповідала сьогодні про це, і трошки, по-перше, я почала писати трохи іншу музику. Це справді так. Бо мені включилися якісь нові елементи. Тобто, я була досить вільна у своїй творчості, а після початку повномасштабного вторгнення я відчула свою відповідальність за те, що я роблю і що я транслюю. Це було і раніше, але тоді це головна ідея була мого життя. Написати те, що буде мати сенс, як захист, як відтворення якихось страшних подій, як, ну, ще ми не говорили про нову, тобто про нове тіло української культури, яку я несу в собі. Вибачте, ще так складно.
Yeah, it's a bit loaded. So where should I begin?
Так, нове. Що нового? Це...
Yeah, the writing has definitely changed, of course. But
Well, Victoria is saying that she has a greater sense of responsibility for transmitting Ukrainian culture, and it's not just about her anymore, but it's about what will represent and what will protect Ukrainian culture.
Не тільки культуру, взагалі українське в собі.
Like the Ukrainian essence.
Це потрібно було захистити, тому я писала музику, яка зв'язана з цим процесом від зберігання,
Yeah.
захисту.
The
Це важливо передати, це треба слухати.
Yeah, so the protection of the Ukrainian essence, the Ukrainian spirit, its values, and that it's much harder, much more difficult to put into words, as we are attempting to right now, than to express through music.
she used the word berehinya, which is like a very ancient protector figure of Ukrainian culture. So the music, since the full-scale invasion, can take on this sort of property of almost like a magical protection presence. I would love to take any questions from the audience. You don't need to listen to me talk all evening.
Hi, thank you so much. It's very nice to meet you. I have a question about Maria Yudina and why it was dedicated to her and how it's connected. Tell us the story. I'm curious. Thanks.
Це справді дуже дивна історія, яка зі мною відбулася, бо вона мені наснилася. Це був такий сон, що я вмерла і зустріла її на березі Стіксу. І вона повернулася до мене у напрямку померлих і звернулася і сказала, що вона хоче подарувати мені свій рояль.
Okay. So this actually came from a dream which Victoria had, in which she had passed away, and as she passed away, she met Yudina in person at the river Styx, and Yudina offered to hand her over her piano.
І наступного ранку до мене зателефонували і сказали, що хочуть мені подарувати рояль. Перевезли. І ось цю сонату я одразу написала на цьому роялі. Це щось таке, що неможливо пояснити, але таке.
So the very next morning she received a phone call, and indeed she was offered the piano of Maria Yudina, and on which she actually composed the piece. So this is something supernatural, which cannot entirely be explained.
А з вами цей експірієнс стався, коли ви прийшли у християнство, чи коли прийшли у християнство?
So this occurred after Victoria came into Christianity.
Thank you so much. Дуже дякую.
Дякую за питання.
Other questions?
One of the great things about the Ukrainian Contemporary Music Festival, I think, is the way, Leah, you juxtapose new music with music by 20th century Ukrainian composers who we don't know well, mostly I think because of the political situation of the Cold War. And I wanted to ask Victoria if there are composers from previous generations whose music is especially meaningful to her or inspiring or influential in her work.
Я, здається, зрозуміла. Може перекласти? Щоб я...
Які композитори на вас мали вплив з середини України 20-го сторіччя? Українських, так.
Це страшне, насправді. Бо я я так багато в себе вібрала, що я не можу навіть виділити. Ну, скоріш за все, це Лятошинський Сильвестра, але це одна лінія композиторська, тобто Сильвестров учень Лятошинського. Ну, це найближче. Але були інші. Тобто, можна сказати, що я як по-осматися, все вбираю.
So she feels that this is kind of a loaded question because there's so much that she has absorbed like a sponge. And, primarily she's most influenced by Selestrov and Letoshinsky, which she considers to be of the same lineage because Sylvestrov was a student of Letoshinsky, but overall she feels that it's hard to pin down exactly which influence has had the biggest impact on her music.
Maybe I can sort of rephrase, are there Ukrainian composers that for you belong in the standard repertoire that maybe people don't know about? So we're going to give you all an assignment. What Ukrainian composers should be better known?
Now?
Не ті.
Це дуже цікава річ. Раніше я трималася зовсім індивідуально і старалася не мати близьких контактів з колегами, бо це суперництво, це досить така історія конкуренції і як більшість з нас, я індивідуалістка. Але зараз я бачу, що прийшла нова генерація композиторів. І десь там за 30 років до 40. І це абсолютно інші люди. Перше, вони зближені, дружньо зближені, а по-друге, це стилістично надзвичайно потужні люди. Я могла б багато кого назвати. Максим Шалихін, наприклад, Олег Шпудейко, Антон Байбаков, з дівчат Анна Корсун. Це фантастичні композитори. Аня Аркушина. Тобто це ціла генерація справді серйозних митців. І вони вже несуть іншу культуру. Це дуже далеко від академізму. Це, вони технічно дуже сильні, але вони відокремилися від академізму. Це надзвичайно.
So what Victoria is saying is that in her generation, she herself kept herself apart from other composers because she, like many others, considers herself an individualist. And the other reason for that being that there was a sense of competition among composers. And she's noticed a shift in the last 30 or 40 years where composers have become more collaborative with each other. And while they're extremely strong as in the technical sense, they've also expanded beyond that, and they're
Names?
Поки що ні. Ще вона не тільки
Дуже
технічна, але і академічна. Ще як?
Добре, вони відійшли від академізму і вони формують нову естетику. І це вже інтенсивна українська естетика.
Right. So they're forming a new aesthetic that is moving away from the academic approach that is uniquely Ukrainian.
And the composers that were mentioned were Maxim Shalikhin, who's based in the Netherlands, I believe now.
Анна Корсун.
Anna Korsun, who's in Germany, I believe.
Анна Аркушина.
Arkushina, who is now in Austria, but just finished a very prestigious period of study at IRCAM in Paris. Shpudenko.
in Kyiv.
He's in Kyiv. Alexander. Oleg Shpudenko.
Антон Байбаков і
Anton Baikov.
Він.
Yes.
По всьому світу розкидала.
She says that, the artists have been thrown all around the world.
Since this contest, thank you very much, first and foremost, and to the performers as well, but your music is so inspiring. So this event is part of the Ukrainian Culture Festival in New York, where we also present literature, poets and writers, and cinema. And I'm wondering if you have something that inspires you from Ukrainian contemporary literature or, classic literature, and also whether you collaborate with any contemporary filmmakers. Is there anybody that you were excited to learn about? Do you see new names kind of in this other adjacent art forms?
У мене немає колаборації з фільммейкером, немає контакту з літераторами, з письменниками. Але я весь час читаю українську поезію, я це вживу.
Кого саме?
У мене багато коханих в цій області. Останній тиждень це був Ремарук, якщо його знаєте. Стус. З дівчат це Bucha.Lacrimosa, дуже люблю. І Яківа. Тобто, Боже, це такий світ, що його не перерахуєш по пальцях. Там Іздрик, Катя Калитко.
Прохасько. Ще Прохасько.
Тарас Прохасько. Таке, це надзвичайний світ. І я думаю, що, я вже казала Лії, що це особливо для України вже давно відкрита дорога творення слова. Тобто це щось абсолютно неймовірне. І я не знаю, в яких культурах є щось подібне, як українська поезія. І музика йде до цього, але вона йде крок у крок. Але поезія на першому плані, здається.
So Victoria said that while she is not in direct collaboration with any filmmakers or poets, she's influenced by them.
Reader. Я читач.
Yeah, so she considers herself a reader, and she points out the uniquely rich tradition of Ukrainian writers, and that that the music world and the literary world are walking step in step.
And I will just take this perfect moment to plug for the fact that the Ukrainian Contemporary Music Festival, which is happening this coming year in March, will be about music and literature. Sorry, that was set up.
Mariana Kernovska read at the festival on the 21st of this month, so she was also part of this festival.
Any last questions?
I don't really have a question, but just I was so enjoyed hearing this, and I especially loved the use of the sustained pedal and the quiet. And I found it very brave. It brings us right into your moment, and I especially appreciated that as a listener.
Я зрозуміла, але
Що вона дуже була натхнена, як ви використовували педаль, і скільки часу ви лишали між нотами, що це було дуже сміливо. Так.
Дякую. Для мене дуже важливо це відчуття мого особистого коннекту з луною, що йде від гри. Тобто, я думаю, що моя музика, вона народжується у цей час. Тобто те, що відбувається після торкання. Луна і ці вібрації, і змішування різних регістрів і слухання. Це головне, над чим я працюю.
Okay.
I'm ready to translate.
And that's what it sounded like. That's what it seemed like. Wow. Okay. I think I'm just overwhelmed. Excuse me. Just
This is a very important part of the composition, and that in some ways that's where the music is living. That's where the music is born. It's from this resonance and silence. And actually, I think I will just add that particular quality is very much connected to this idea of the bell.
Yes.
I was in the rehearsal today, and I really encourage any of you who don't already have tickets to come tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. But this life in the resonance after the sound, I mean, I think that's really integral to this piece, in addition to being a part of a lot of Victoria's music. So I believe there are still tickets available. It's going to be just basically across the street at Carnegie Hall in Zankel Hall. It's tomorrow at 7:30. So we would love to see you there. And if there are any other questions, I would just thank the composer once again.